All right, we are going live. Let's get this show on the road here. I hope everybody is doing well. Go into preview on that one. And get my TV on here. So it looks like we are live once again. And we're going to be doing a triple header. Whoa, that's a little echoey. We are going to be doing a triple header this weekend. So Friday, today, tomorrow, and Sunday night, same time, 8 o'clock, we're going to be doing live streams. And I was going to do 2 of these Ryzen laptops tonight, but I think I'm going to do one tonight and one tomorrow. That is the plan. So that is what we're doing. And we got some folks here on YouTube tuning in. We got El Taco Destroyer. We've got Keith McDermott and B. Tabalba. All the regulars are shuffling in. And we're going to go live on Amazon in about 5 minutes, I think. So the plan for tonight, I was initially going to do a whole bunch of stuff. I was going to shoot the review tonight, but I'm not yet ready to do that. So I thought what we would do tonight on the live stream is just do some testing of this one, and then if there's a little bit of time, I'll take out the other one. And then I've got more coming. So I've got an HP that I'm probably going to buy next week. And these are all powered by these AMD Ryzen processors. And this one, oh, Tony, I miss Tony Eden and Saini Saab and Jackie06, who just all came in. So we're looking at the Asus one first, and this is, let's see, where did the CloudGate test go? Huh, interesting. Did they get rid of the CloudGate test? So this is a Ryzen-powered laptop. This one costs under $500. In fact, this one is $479 at the moment, I believe. And we're just kind of stretching things out for a minute or two until we hit 8 o'clock. So what I've been doing is live streams on Amazon's shopping channel. And what that means is that we get to go on the Amazon homepage. So those streams will appear at 8 o'clock on the homepage. Ah, here it is. I was trying to run this before. So it's pretty cool stuff. I'm really enjoying doing this. And so what we'll be looking at tonight is I'm doing testing on this Asus laptop. And then this is powered by the Ryzen chip. And then we're going to have another stream tomorrow night with an Lenovo one that I bought. So we're going to be looking at a lot of these. People like these low-cost laptops. I'm getting a lot of traffic on these from some of the other reviews that I've done. There's an Acer that we looked at recently. El Taco Destroyer is wondering, have I heard of GDEMU? It's basically an EverDrive for the Dreamcast. Yes, I've heard of that. And you got to be careful when you buy that thing because there's a lot of like generic ones out there that might not perform as well. So just be mindful of that. And but yeah, there's been a lot of reviews of that. So definitely, I think they're good. I'm actually thinking about getting one, to be honest. Let's see. Cartman's Chili. I picked up a Ryzen 3200U on Black Friday. Great laptop for the money. He's wondering, will upgrading the RAM from 3200 megahertz to from 2600 benefit frame rates? I don't think so. Unless the laptop can take advantage of that and you can overclock the memory, I don't think you're going to get much more out of it. The Joker Styles, I'm waiting for these reviews. His parents are buying a new laptop. This is great. Cool. So we'll see how it goes. Sager, I am doing well. We are just waiting for 8 o'clock to roll around before we start the stream in earnest. And what I'm doing here is just running a couple of benchmarks that we do. So when I do my reviews, we always look at some benchmark tests. And Jake was having a hard time getting this test to run earlier, so I'm just running this real quick. This is the test that I really like to run because it is something that you can run on a lot of lower-end devices. This is the 3D Mark CloudGate test. And it looks like it's doing really well, actually, so I'm eager to see what the result is when it comes in. And I'm going to pull up my benchmark table here. So we can add this to the list there. And then when we hit 8 o'clock, we'll start doing some more stuff. So the plan tonight, we're going to go for about 90 minutes or so. And the plan is we are going to finish up some of the evaluation that I've been doing on the laptop. So I'm not yet ready to shoot the review. So what I want to do is get, it looks like it's struggling on that part of the test a little bit. What I wanted to do is get some of the game footage shot for this. So that'll be helpful on the stream because I know a lot of you are into games. So we're going to shoot some games running on the laptop and have that ready for the full review. And I've got a few other things that I want to do with it, including take it apart to see what we can upgrade on there. And I also wanted to run the CloudGate test. That's a good score for a sub $500 laptop, folks. So if we go over to my CloudGate benchmark test here, I'm just updating my, so this thing with the Ryzen chip is performing, interestingly, below the Ryzen 5 2500U in the Huawei MateBook D, although graphically it is doing better. So that is good to see. So this is the Asus Vivobook 15, and we're going to go live on Amazon here real quick and get going there. And I'll welcome everybody there in a second. And we are live on Amazon. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in about 13 minutes or so, or 12 minutes if you are watching on Amazon. And tonight's going to be kind of a low-key affair because we're just going to be doing a whole bunch of reviews or a whole bunch of evaluation kind of stuff while I get ready to do my review. So I'm not going to shoot the review tonight, but we are going to be playing with this laptop. And tomorrow night, I've got another one like it that we'll be looking at. So this is the Ryzen 5 3500U, and we got a score of 10,187. And I'm sort of surprised by this because we did better on last year's one, at least on the CPU, it looks like. Oh shoot, did I just put this in the wrong column? Hang on, I'm just updating my spreadsheet here. So we had 70.98. So it's doing better than last year's version, or the prior version. But the CPU is running below where it was, which is odd. I just want to check one thing on this real quick and see if perhaps we can do a little bit of... What's interesting is that it's saying that CloudGate is not supported anymore on this laptop. I'm just going to run that physics test again. I'm just curious how it does. All right, let me jump back to the chat. I missed a bunch of questions here. SRAM is happy to be able to tune into a stream for once. Welcome aboard. And I'm getting some warnings on YouTube about my stream health, so hopefully the stream will survive here. David Parker enjoys the live streams. I enjoy them as well, and I'm glad you're here. Charsman says, any Ryzen laptop, the first question I always ask, does it have dual channel RAM? Yes, so the two that I have in-house both have dual channel RAM, and this one is 4x4. I'm going to take it apart at the end of some of the stuff we're doing to see what's inside of it. But yes, both of these do, because the one that we looked at earlier this year, which was the Acer one, the Aspire 5, that one had single channel RAM and you had to add another RAM module to get the performance. This one out of the gate will perform better. All right, so I just ran that 3D Mark CloudGate again, and I did better on the CPU. So I'm going to run the whole test again, and then by the time this is done, I think we'll be ready to do our full-on deal here. And this is the thing, when you look at enough of these computers, when you see a result that's not right, there's usually something you gotta look at with it, because this should have done better than what we saw before. So we're going to go back to details here and just run this again. But this is performing. I mean, think about it. For $500, you're getting performance that far exceeds what you would get with an Intel device with no GPU. So what we're seeing here is kind of like, I would say kind of a lower end GTX NVIDIA GPU from 2 years ago, maybe, so it's not all that bad. And when we start playing some games on it later, we'll have a better sense of what it can do. And again, this is dual channel RAM on this one, so that helps. Richard Recharged is asking what chip this one has. This is the Ryzen 5 3500U. So I think this is the most recent Ryzen chip. I just saw a bunch of these show up on Amazon. So we went from just one or two Ryzens to like a bunch of them. So that's what we're taking a look at today. Jack 6 wants to know if this is an IPS panel. It is an IPS panel. So it looks pretty good. Actually, it looks very nice. And the bezels aren't that bad on it either. It's got pretty thin bezels. You know, it's plastic all around, but not bad. Trevor Paisley, welcome, wants to know what VR headset do I plan to use for Half-Life. I'll probably use my Vive Pro just because it has the higher frame rate, but I've been using my my Oculus Quest quite a bit because it's convenient. So there's always a trade-off there. Let's see what else we got here. The Joker Style 100 says that my review on the Amazon 2019 Fire tablet got him into the reviews that I do. Thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. Glad you could be here. Tony Eden has a good question here. Some of you might answer this. What percentage less efficient are Ryzens than Intel as a general rule? I think the gap is closing significantly. And you know what's interesting is that, it's funny, this test keeps clogging up when we're running it as a full-blown thing here. What's been interesting about the Ryzen chips is that they do so much better graphically that even if the CPU performance isn't on par with the equivalent Intel chip, you're getting much better performance in most of the applications that consumers run. So this test is all over the place. Crazy. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's a thermal thing, but when we get to the CPU portion of that test, when we're running the other tests with it, it really starts to get clobbered there. I'm going to have to investigate that further. So interesting stuff. So yeah, I think, if you are, and you'll see when we start loading up some of the games and stuff, that this actually does really well and will do very well for a sub $500 laptop. Although I'm really concerned about what I'm seeing here. I'd love to know how they get the score compiled. And part of me is wondering, is it because they're not supporting this? It's saying unsupported tests. So I'm guessing they've kind of retired this benchmark, which is a shame because I use it all the time. And it's a great historical marker. John Richardson wants to know, we have a few other people. Red Rush is here and Pigu06 is here. Polly Staffel is joining us on Amazon. Welcome everybody. I'm going to try my best to say hello to everybody as people pop in. Robert Ivy is here. John Richardson, low-cost laptop or used high-end laptop from eBay? Oh, that's always a good question. I don't like to buy used laptops just because I don't know where they've been. But you got to buy what you need and can afford. So I think that's part of it. I would say if you get it from eBay, make sure that maybe if it's refurbished, it's from a refurbishing company, so there's a little bit more protection there. But these are a nice compromise because they do really, like I said, they do really well graphically, and I think that's kind of an important distinction. What's the minimum requirement, Kota asks, for playing video files with HDMV, HDR2X2? So I think if you're looking at the H.265, HEVC stuff, most of the current stuff should run it. And actually, even the Gemini Lake chips are doing, even on the really super low end, if you buy one of the newer Gemini Lake mini PCs or laptops, those will play HEVC as well, although most of them don't do the 4K HDR. 4K HDR is really difficult on these laptops. So, Dapster, I'm actually not starting yet. We're just getting things started here. I start a little bit early because the Amazon homepage starts at 8, and I want to make sure the stream is up and running before they pick me up. So we're not doing any meat and potatoes until that 8 o'clock hour here in the eastern U.S. passes through. David Yablonsky wants, thank you, David, for your super chat contribution. Thanks for staying up and sharing tech with us. Yeah, it's not too late for me, so I think we'll do about an hour to 90 minutes tonight, and then we'll be back again tomorrow night with another one of these Ryzen machines. This is a Ryzen 3. This one, again, is the Ryzen This is the Ryzen 5 3500U is what we have inside of this one. No touch screen on this one. Does not have Type-C charging. Mr. Food Moon was asking, and the Joker Style asked about the touch screen. And if you go on my Amazon link, you can find the exact model we're talking about. This, by the way, came in on loan from Asus, and we're done with this. It goes back to them. DR wants to know, can you play modern games? We're going to check out a few in a few minutes, so stay tuned. John Capel, welcome. Thank you for the kind words. Jeff Lundberg, what price point does it make sense to get a Chromebook versus a Windows-based laptop? I think it's more usage than price, to be honest, because a Chromebook is very different than a Windows machine, so you have to kind of figure out exactly what your needs are and then decide. Because you can buy a Chromebook that costs as much or if not more than a Windows laptop, but it's about what you need. And I think you have to really understand what the limitations of Chrome OS are and some of their advantages, and then you can kind of figure out what works best for you there. Bit off topic from Jackie and Jason. What would be your thoughts on the Blackmagic Design A10 Mini HDMI? I think for a school setting, it's perfect. It's cheap enough so that you can afford to buy cameras and some other stuff, because you could spend, a couple grand on a much more expensive system. And the A10 Mini, for the most part, is what the A10 1ME was, which was like a $2,000 product. This is $250. Good deal. John Richardson wants to know if these Ryzen laptops play nice with Adobe acceleration. Somebody else is going to have to answer that one, because I don't use Adobe at all. I just canceled my subscription, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure they will, because I think Adobe plays well with Radeon graphics, but I'm not sure how well these particular ones do. So David Yablonski says the Ryzen 3 supports up to 32 gigabytes on his ThinkPad. And we'll start with the specs here in just a second when we start the 8 o'clock live stream, so stay tuned. So Charcept is saying that the RAM is soldered on here. It is, I believe it is. I haven't taken it apart yet, but I think we should be able to get into this one pretty easily. The screws look pretty accessible. And we will do that in a little while. However, they have configured it in a 4x4 configuration, so this is dual channel. And we can verify that in a second. So we are just about to go live on the Amazon homepage, and I'll reintroduce what we're working on tonight. And I'm just checking to see when we go live over there. And once we start, I'll kind of do a rundown of what we're going to do. So I like to start a little bit early just so I can make sure the stream is working properly. Because as you all know, I struggle with bandwidth here. So, and we get a lot of views when we go live on the homepage. So this stream does really well. So we're just waiting here for 8 o'clock to roll around, and then we'll kind of get into it and see what we can do with this laptop. And I'll take a few other questions here. Yeah, John Richardson is the QuickCast guy, of course. Haven't done the battery life test yet. I think the battery is not as good on these Ryzen laptops as it is on Intel. It's one thing Intel does very well is battery life. So that's certainly one area that you'll need to be thinking about. And that's often the trade-off with these, is that you could get great performance and at a low price, but you sacrifice battery life and portability. And this one, of course, is going to do well for the price point. So it looks like we are live on Amazon, everybody. So what I want to do first is welcome all of you who are on YouTube or here on Amazon. And it looks like we're doing pretty well tonight for a Friday night, because everyone's, it's the end of the week, weekend's starting. So we're going to be taking a look. So I was going to do like a bunch of Ryzen laptops tonight, and then I was looking at my schedule, and I've got a live stream tonight, another one tomorrow, and a third one on Sunday. So what I thought I would do is start with this laptop. And what I'm in the process of doing right now is getting all of my tests run, and we're going to shoot some game footage of it, and we're going to take it apart. So all the stuff that I do to kind of prepare for a review, we're going to do tonight with this one. And then tomorrow night, we'll repeat the process with a Lenovo that I got in. So this one that we're looking at here is the Asus Vivobook 15. This is powered by an AMD processor. This is the Ryzen 5 3500U. This one is well under $500. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM on board, and it's configured in a dual channel memory configuration. So that means you get the best graphics performance out of this. And there are a number of laptops. In fact, most of the major manufacturers now offer one of these AMD chips. And the reason why you might want to look at these is that if you want to play some games or maybe do some graphics work on a lower cost laptop, these AMD Ryzen chips do much better graphically than the Intel equivalents that you might find at around the same price point. And that can be very attractive for people in college or folks that are looking for a somewhat decent gaming platform that don't want to spend a lot of money on a fancier gaming laptop. This one has got a 15-inch display. It's 1080p. It's an IPS display, so you get fairly decent viewing angles. They do drop off a little bit when you go off center on it, but it looks adequately bright. Backlit keyboard. You've got a fingerprint sensor here for getting into the computer. So all of that stuff is kind of nice about these machines. And again, there's a lot of these from different manufacturers. Some have different features, and we'll be having a full review of this on my YouTube channel at Lon.TV. And again, tonight we're just going to start poking around with it and seeing what we can do. Now, before I started the stream, I was just running a few benchmarks on this, and this one is performing a little bit better than the prior go-around. So this is a newer generation of AMD processors, so that has been good. And what I want to do first here is maybe load up a couple of games, because I wanted to shoot some video of us doing that. And I should mention, too, that this laptop came in on loan from Asus. So when we're done with this, we send it back to them. And they're not paying for this live stream or reviewing anything before it goes up. And I was happy that they were able to let us borrow one of these. And then I purchased a Lenovo AMD-based machine, which we'll look at tomorrow night. And we also will get next week, I'm getting in an HP. And that HP is also a Ryzen-based device. And they're all coming in at 15-inch displays. They all kind of look the same, actually. They have the number pad and all of that. So it's pretty consistent across the board. So we're going to load up a couple of games here. I thought maybe I would start with GTA 5. And what we're going to target here is running the games at 1080p, but at the lowest resolution. And that's been kind of the benchmark that we've been looking at. So we'll see how this goes here. And if you're on Amazon, you can leave a chat down in the chat window down there, and I'll try to answer it as we go through with all of this. And if you're on YouTube, of course, I'll try to keep up with the chat here as well. I might bring in Jake on a few of these soon to start just keeping track of the chat, because it goes by so quickly. And I want to thank a couple folks here. We have Bernardo Anderson, who became a new member, and David Yablonsky, who contributed via Super Chat a little bit earlier as well. So we're just going to get Grand Theft Auto 5 going here. And I got to go through a couple of those install steps for the first time. Now, one neat trick while we're waiting for this to load is, Stephanie McKeon is here too. If you have an external hard drive like I have here, your Steam games can get put on the external drive, and then you don't have to download these huge games every time you want to move around from one computer to the next. And we do that a lot with our Steam games because, of course, we're testing new laptops all the time. So it's pretty helpful stuff. And it looks like we got to install a launcher now to get into GTA 5. Coda wants to know, with these Ryzen laptops, you'll be able to play 8K HDR X. I don't know if they'll be able to do 8K HDR X.265. I would say probably not, because they can't even output to 8K. They can do 4K. But Monty, yes, we're going to be 1080p low settings. And I just have to get this launcher going here. So what's nice is that we don't have to download GTA 5 all over again, but we do have to get their launcher installed so that we can load the game up. I guess that's a new thing that they've added And this is a good game to test just because if you were to try to run this on a lower end Intel machine, it would not run very well at all. And I think what we'll see here is that it will actually do halfway decently on stuff here. So I don't remember this taking so long to get going though in the past. So now it's like doing all this other Rockstar installation stuff. Charcept, I believe it is a quad-core chip. I don't know how many threads it supports, but it is a quad-core chip. But a lot of times, like, they have to have some of the video decoding built in as well to make it all work. All right, let's enable cloud saves. I have a cloud save up there I can load up real quick. And we'll get this going. Stephanie McKeon is back on Amazon now. Ian Horner is there. Shouldn't we just wait for the 4000 series laptops? Well, I'm sure that they'll be out at some point. I think what you might see, though, is that these 3000 series are all showing up now. And I have a feeling that you might see these at really good prices. And again, I'm not sure what the over-under is going to be on cost differential, but I'll have to keep an eye on that. But I'm seeing, like, it's funny, we went from like maybe one or two of these 3000 series AMD devices to a lot all of a sudden. So we definitely need to see what's out there. DR is wondering if the fan is loud. Not too bad. It's on, I'm hearing it, but it's not sounding too bad to me yet. We'll see how it sounds when we really get going on the game here. Dapster wants to know about video editing. I actually think it's probably going to be okay for video editing. You'll need external hard drives to really make it work, but if you're not doing any crazy rendering, I think you might see some good video editing performance out of this too. All right, let's go to DirectX 11 here. We're going to go 1920 by 1080. For whatever reason, like, the settings are always out of whack on this when we first install it. So I've got everything down to like normal and real basic here. So let's apply the changes, and we're going to have to restart the game. I'm just going to cough real quick, excuse me. Okay, all better. And let's see what we do. So we're going to wait a second for it to reload here, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. All right. You see what I mean? It's like always, it's never, there it goes. So now it's like windowed full screen, so I got to go back in and check one other thing on this. This happens every time, and I think what's happening is that Steam is like syncing up settings, and when we're we're going from one laptop to another, it kind of does that sort of stuff. Aaron Johnson wants to know, would this be a good Plex server if it had external storage? I don't think so, because these AMD chips don't support Intel QuickSync for video encoding. So I don't know if this is a good choice as a Plex server. All right, so we got to go back into settings one more time and see what's going on with the full screen here. Yeah, see, it went back to, what is this doing? It just like reverted everything back. And it's weird because it's running at a higher resolution than it says it is. All right, there we go. No, see, that's not right. It's like 1024 by 768. Hang on, folks. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've got it. We're at 60 hertz. Let's make sure VSync is off, and we've got everything turned down there, so that's good. All right, so let me go and load up one of my games here. I went to story mode. I'm pretty sure I have a save game we can load up on this. No mods on this one, I'm just running it straight. So what I like to do is just run the game in a kind of a basic configuration, and then that way people have an idea as to what the baseline is on this. And, oh, you know what else I forgot to load up? I forgot to get the, frames per second running in the corner too, so let me get that going. And by the way, if you're curious about my game controller, this is my 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus, and this came in free of charge a while back from 8BitDo, and it's a really versatile controller. I like it quite a bit. Okay. And let's put somebody in timeout here for a little bit. We're going to be doing with that. All right, so Alt, let's see, I just got to find the Steam command for the overlay. What is the command for the Steam overlay, everybody? I got to look that up real quick. All right, Steam overlay is Shift tab, that's right. Okay, let's go back and do that real quick. Just want to get the frames per second to show up on the side there so I know what's going on. All right, so we're going to go over to settings and we're going to do, oh, that's for streaming. In-game, here we go. All right, FPS counter will go top right. Nice high contrast color. And wow, this thing is doing, you know, not bad. So maybe hard to see. Let me switch over here. So we're doing at low settings. We're like, now granted we're inside, so it's helpful too to, so what I usually do is I get into my car here. This is one of my save games. And I go downtown a little bit where there's more things going on. So all right, what's going on here? And that tends to be a little bit more accurate. Yeah, so right now we're dropping down into like the upper 30s, which is about where these often perform. But it's, you know, it's the difference right now between the upper 30s and the lower 30s, right? But it's still, I mean, this is totally playable. You know, you just have your settings turned down. But, you know, for a low price, under $500 laptop, you know, if you're able to do a pretty, you know, a couple years later, GTA 5 is still really demanding. And we're doing okay here. We're in the 30 frames per second territory. It's dropped down a little bit to like 29 there, but not bad. Let me take some questions here as we're going. And actually, it's not locked to 30. It's getting, I'm seeing it go to like 35, 36. So right now it's doing like 36. And, you know, really it's a matter of, so what I like to do actually is to get a good reading here is, I usually like, oops, hit the wrong button. I usually like blow myself up here and then I go to the hospital and come out during the day. So I take out my rocket launcher here and I just kind of send myself to the hospital. And while we wait for me to re-emerge from my medical treatment, it's going to get the camera zoomed in a little bit better here so we can capture some footage. All right, there we go. So, yeah, so it's about 30. I mean, this is about what I typically see. I'm just going to hit my record button here and get some footage recorded. So, yeah, it's in the 30 to 35 territory. And we'll borrow this guy's car here real quick. And what I'll do is just kind of run around to some other parts of the cityscape here and see how we do. So yeah, we're doing about 30, 28. This is 1080p at the lowest settings. So yeah, it's performing about where we've seen some of the other Ryzens perform. You know, if we turned up the settings, you know, even a little bit, we would be, you know, obviously seeing a reduction in frame rate. But it's able to maintain 30. So that's not bad. And again, for a sub $500 computer, I think this looks pretty nice. I mean, it's easily as nice as your Xbox One, you know, the original Xbox One console might be. So, yeah, not bad. All right, so I'm just going to capture that real quick. Let's see what we've got here. I've got a couple questions on the YouTube side. Let's see. Metal Beer Solid says, driving with GTA and keyboard is awful. Prefer controllers for these types of games. Yeah, so I usually just plug in. I got my 8-bit dough here, but like an Xbox One controller works fine too. Joy Yukin was wondering if you updated the drivers for the laptop, as some laptops of Ryzen perform better with the latest update. It might be worth taking a look at that. Let's see if there is a driver update. We did do all the Windows updates, but I did not do the driver updates. So maybe we'll pop out and see if we see any real advantage to that. We have time. So let's exit out to Windows real quick here. I'm just going to get my file recorded here. It is a matte screen. It's not glossy. Flukum was wondering, and then Flukum was also wondering if the fan is noisy or whirring loudly. It's not too bad. It's actually pretty, it's pretty good. All right, so we're going to rename this to, and if folks in the chat can help, because I'm getting a lot of people coming in late who don't have the specs, if you can just help everybody out and let them know the specs of this, for those of you that have been on for a little bit. Let me just, 2000 Asus GTA 5. Okay, so we saved that. All right, so let me go over to, sorry, I'm just organizing my files here so that we can take a look at that. So the next thing here is to try to figure out what driver version we're on. And I'm not sure if we can find that easily. Let's see. So maybe we'll go over to the AMD website and pick up some driver packages and see what might be out there. So I'll just search for AMD Ryzen drivers, see what we can track down. So Ryzen 5 3500U. So let's do 3500U. All right, let's go to drivers and support. And so now we've got to find processors with graphics. We'll go to Ryzen processors, and then the Ryzen 3. This is the Ryzen 5, I'm sorry, Ryzen 5, and then we have the 3500U. And I'm going to submit that, and let's see if it does any better. So we'll download the Radeon software. This is a good suggestion too, because if we do see a nice little performance boost, it might be worth revisiting that game real quick. Yeah, we're going to take this apart in a little bit after we get through some of the games and stuff and see what it's got under there. This one, the spec sheet said that it's 8 gigs, 4x4, so it's soldered on, I believe, but they have it in dual channel configuration. And given what I'm seeing on some of the benchmarks, it's clearly running at the performance I would expect out of this. So it feels like it's doing pretty well. So we'll get that driver downloaded real quick here. Oops. And then we will install it. And maybe we'll do Fortnite after this. And I don't know if we're going to be able to upgrade RAM on this one or change out the RAM. And what's nice about these is that, again, you're spending, not as much, but getting something useful. And what I found these to be really attractive for people who are going off to college and they want something that can play a couple games but isn't crazy expensive. Because if you think about it, if you get a nice laptop with a GPU and everything, you're looking at $1,500 or more. This can run a lot of the games that you might want to run for a much lower price. So let's see what happens after we install this software. Martin Prasad wants to know the model of the Lenovo we're going to look at tomorrow. Yeah, it is the 330S. So it's the Lenovo 330S with the Ryzen. And I think that one is running with the 2500U, the Ryzen. So I think that one's like a step below what this one has in it. So I was looking for laptops that were, as with these Ryzen chips that were the least cost possible. So this one at the moment is like $479. I think it's a pretty good price for what you're getting. And the Lenovo is $375, but it has 8 gigs of RAM, but the lower powered processor. So that is the breakdown there. Confirmed, SK says he bought a Ryzen 5 2500U laptop for about $300, and he's going to add a 16 gig stick and get a portable monitor. Louis Pardo wants to know the HP model. I don't have it off the top of my head, but that one I think is also in the $315 territory. And they had on the HP they had a couple of them. I haven't ordered it yet, so I was going to order it after I get through with these two. They had a couple of them, and some had 4 gigs and some had 8. So you want to make sure you get the 8 because the 4 gig I don't believe is running in dual channel configuration. All right, so we've got Radeon software here, 201.3 from just a couple days ago. So I'm positive that's probably newer than what I've got on here. So let's install this real quick. And it's going to take about 1 minute and 46 seconds to get that driver installed. And this might be some good advice for people who are looking at this, because you might want to go and do this after you update everything else. So this came in earlier this afternoon, and we were doing Windows 10 updates and this update and that update, so it takes a while to get these things going. Louis Pardo is looking at the NV360 from HP with the Ryzen 3500U. And I think that one's probably going to be fine too. You know, what I found with all of these machines is that Intel or AMD, they always seem to perform about the same. There's always some variation. Sometimes a manufacturer might change the thermal profile to have it run a little bit slower, but generally, you know, for the most part, the name brand machines tend to all be around the same level of performance. So it really comes down to, what do you like about the feature set that that manufacturer is offering? Sometimes the look of it might be enough for you. Maybe the smaller bezels of the Asus are more attractive. So those are the sorts of things that you should think about. And what I'll be just doing throughout the stream here is reminding you that this came in on loan from Asus, and we'll be sending it back to them when we are done. And it looks like it came back up here. It looks like we got the Radeon software installed. And you know what I'm going to probably do first here, folks, is I think I'm going to rerun this benchmark that I was running on this. And the reason is that if the driver is going to help us here, let's see if we see a benchmark change for that. And we'll just run a real quick 3D Mark CloudGate test and just see what we get there. So let me go do that real quick. And by the way, I think if you have multiple computers, running Steam games, installing them on external hard drives is super simple, and it makes things a lot easier. So let's go over to software, 3D Mark. I'm just going to load this up again real quick and see if we get any improvements. Now, one thing I noticed for you benchmark folks out there, they have moved the CloudGate test to the unsupported area. I don't know if they're saying it's not supported on this particular laptop or if they've decided to retire that test. And I hope they don't, because that has been a test we have done a lot with on the channel. So you can see here, like, I have to click this, and now it's available for us here. So Frog Vahalen wants to know, what do I think of Picard? I think it is great. I enjoyed every minute of that show last night. I'm going to watch it again tonight. I'm making my wife watch it. Here's what I think is great about, not to go off topic here, but somebody mentioned Picard, and that's going to get me going. What I think is working with Picard is that, you know, we're kind of like Star Wars. We're continuing a story after a long hiatus. In this case, almost 20 years. Star Wars, of course, was almost 40 years. And I think what they did well here was hire good writers, first of all. Secondly, the legacy character is the lead character. And I think that makes a big difference, because you're getting the continuation of that lead character's story with new characters as supporting actors. And, you know, it might be seeing a little bit faster performance here. We'll see when the results come back on this. And in the case of Star Wars, what we got was the legacy characters were supporting actors and actresses, and I think that's what turned off a lot of people. But it was great. And you know what I really liked about, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I will say this, because it was kind of evident in the trailer, that Patrick Stewart is a masterful actor. And you could see, as they were kind of going through this initial exposition of the character of the show, you could see the character you remembered awakening as the show progressed over the hour. And it was really well done. And it wasn't, you know, some people said it was a little rushed. I didn't think it was all that rushed. I think it was really, I think they're taking their time with this. They know they've got, you know, 10 or 12 hours to tell the story. So they're spending some time, I think, with the setup. And they know they have a second season, which was announced before the first one was even done shooting. So they've got 20 hours to really tell this story. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll tell you what, he looks great for 79. He really does. All right, so we're going to let this run through here. What's been interesting, for those of you that tuned in after we got started, oh, see, now it's running a little better. That driver made a big difference here, everybody, at least with this test, because it was totally choking on this, this benchmark. So thank you for whoever suggested that I install that driver, because I think we're seeing a much different result here now. All right, so benchmark result. That's good. See, that's what it should be. So, all right, so you know what's funny? I may run. I'm sorry to waste your time, everybody, but I think you all find this interesting because I'm a little bit under. Nah, you know what? I think it's. I'm going to run this one more time. I'm going to record these results real quick, and then I'm going to run it one more time. Because what we saw before was slightly better graphics performance than what I'm getting now, but not significantly different. And I just want to have it run one more time just in case we have some stuff in the background that's kind of, but the CPU test did much better. But what's interesting is that, so these results are almost the same as last year's Huawei MateBook D that had the 2500U on there. And I would expect to see a little bit better performance on the graphics side. So I'm just going to run it one more time just to make sure that we're getting there. And my concern now that they're not supporting this test is that, is it possible that perhaps because this test is unsupported that this newer Ryzen chip is not fully optimized for however they're testing this thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Okay, so let's let this run one more time here. And I'm getting notifications about high DPI displays, which we don't have attached. So I don't know what that's all about. But AMD really wants me to know about their software news too. All right, so let's let that run through one more time. And so MZU 5000, I believe they have a few different colors of this controller. They got a black one, and I think they've got a, I think there's one that does the Famicom Japanese colors. So you might want to see if that's around there. And Jory Ken, thank you for, you were the one that suggested that, so thank you for your advice on that. Martin says that Patrick Stewart doesn't like Earl Grey tea hot. He prefers Yorkshire tea. So how about that? Green tea without sugar is detoxifying. I tried to get into green tea, but it kind of tasted like, for me, like grass clippings. I like jasmine tea, which is green tea with, I think, jasmine in it, and that's my preferred tea. Although I'm more of a coffee drinker. And B. Tababa says, time to update the spreadsheet. Yes, for sure. And actually, if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see my spreadsheet that I use for all these things. You know, a lot of folks are reminding us that there will be 4000 series laptops around the corner. And, you know, there will be. However, I think from the price perspective, you know, these are in the $300 or $400 territory. And if AMD is going to be clearing out inventory for their new chip, then I think you're going to get some good deals on these laptops. Yeah, this is what it was doing before. See that? It gets like super slow on this test. And now it's catching up again. I don't know what to think with this. Let's see what the result is when it comes back. I don't know if it's some thermal thing or what. And the GTA thing kind of bore this out also, that we got similar. Yeah, see, it's not doing as well here. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to play around with this a little bit more. So we'll come back to that. All right. So you know what we'll do now, though, is maybe we'll run GTA 5 one more time, because now that we have the driver updated, perhaps we might see better performance there. So let me go back to GTA 5 real quick, and we'll see if we get better than the 30 we were getting before. We'll have to blow up our little guy there again. Let's see. And yes, I have a lot of Steam games, and I have played very few of them. So what happens is they give you those deals, right? And you get the email, and the email is like, hey, you gotta, you know, this game that's on your wish list is on sale for like $5, and you buy it, and then you never play it. So I have like a bunch of stuff. All right. So Flucom wants to know, when can we find a sitemap of my website? So I don't really have a website yet. I'm in the process of putting one together. So we'll have that soon. So the website, it will I think the website would be pretty nice. But there's no sitemap of prior stuff. But I try to do playlists that put things together. So I have a playlist for laptops that can play games. Even the ones that are not technically gaming laptops, I put into that playlist. So if you go to Lon.TV / Game Tops, I think is the playlist. That'll get you all of the laptops we've looked at, including some of these Ryzen powered machines that we've looked at before. And Chez says he has a backlog of old games. Yeah, I am in the same. I have so many games that I have not had time to play. And I find myself really just playing the real pick up and play stuff, which is why I've been really enjoying the Nintendo Switch so much, because you know, I'm doing, even on the weekends now, I just like to work on the channel and get things organized. And so I haven't really, the weekend time where I used to play video games or whatever, I'm now just doing some work down here. The kids usually at night I'm putting to bed, so that the evenings are usually shot for 2.5 hours to get the kids into bed, and then I'm just exhausted. And you know, video games take some mental capacity, which I don't often have after the kids are in bed. So, so I go through cycles with it. It's funny, like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I play a lot of games for some reason, and then we come back to reality, I guess. All right, so let me blow myself up again here, and we'll get to that daylight section. There we go. And we'll get out of the hospital, and then we'll see how it works. Martin's wondering on the screen for photo editing. I don't have the specs on the display for color accuracy. I'm going to guess that this is not going to be a very accurate display from a color perspective. It looks nice, but you know, it's going to be one of those things where you'll probably be better off buying a higher end machine for that. Yeah, so we're still around 30 frames per second here. Let me borrow this this individual's car. Please see if they would just let me drive the car. We wouldn't have to go through all of this. Yeah, so we're about the same here. I mean, you know, you could say, oh well, it's maybe a frame per second faster here or there, but it's about what we saw before. So it's about 30 frames per second. Sometimes it goes into like the high 20s, but it's. See, right there, it went to like 25 when you had some of the physics going into play as well. But still, I think totally playable for under $500, right? Like, why not? You could spend this much on an i3 and not get this kind of graphics performance. So, good stuff. All right, let's play some other games, folks. So that is the same. But it's good that we did that driver update, because if we hadn't done it, somebody would have suggested in the comments after the review was done to say, hey, you know, what about the drivers? All right, I'm just going to go in and I'm updating my cheat sheets. I'm probably going to shoot this video maybe tomorrow or Monday. So let me just see if Jake started a document for this yet. Let's see. Doesn't look like it. Last modified. You know, shared it with me yet. Let's see, shared with me. Yeah, I think he was just getting going with it. So we're going to start a document for the Asus, and I'll share it with him. So what I do, everybody, I don't have my computer hooked up, but I put together these little cheat sheets in Google Docs. And what I do with these, after I put all the notes together, when I shoot the video, I've got just a one-pager that we print out, and it's good stuff. It's really helpful for that kind of stuff, because when I go to shoot, I've got everything right in front of me. So this is not for this laptop, but this is exactly the kind of stuff that I do. And I try to keep everything onto a single page, and then as I go through, I just kind of check off everything as I'm going, so I know I covered all the stuff that I want to cover. And that is the secret sauce. And I actually print this out on a printer. And it's funny, I got in this Lexmark printer about 6 years ago for review. And it's kind of designed for a larger operation than what I have here. I've had this printer for 6 years, and the toner is still the original cartridge that it came with. And I'm printing on it. I mean, you know, I'm not doing like 50 pages a day. I'm doing maybe 5 or 10 pages a day, if that. But still, like, that thing just keeps going. So Mark Watson said maybe a reboot. No, we did reboot after the driver's installed. So it's going to be what it is. All right. We haven't gotten to the Linux support, everybody. We'll be getting to that in a few minutes. I want to get a few more games shot here. So the other one we like to test is The Witcher 3. And let me see where that one is. I'm actually eager to, we're going to try No Man's Sky later too, just for the heck of it. That's my favorite game. That one I put a lot of time into because it's, they've been doing these weekend things on there now too, so it's really kind of fun. All right, so let's go Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. All right, so let's load that up real quick. And the other thing I love about Steam is that it, what's going on here? Is that it does all the synchronization. So I can sync my save games up. So whenever I play it on the next machine, we have the save games kind of in place there. And this is a game that I would love to play more. I just don't have time for the commitment that it requires. Although I'm eager to try out their cyberpunk game, because that one kind of is a little bit more my thing. I'm not into all this medieval sword stuff, unless it's Zelda on the Nintendo, then I'll play that. But Eric Heiser wants to know what GPU could he compare this to the newest Intel Iris chip. It's hard to say. You know, the Iris chips I'm finding on the newer Iris Intel laptops are coming in around where this one's coming in. But you need the i7, so you're spending a lot more to kind of get an equivalent graphical performance boost. So it's tough. Eric, we will be taking it apart. I think this one is soldered, but we'll double check that when we're done going through some of these games. So the plan here is we're going to load a few more games, and then after that we will try to get Linux going on it. And then we will take it apart. So Metal Beer Solid says 70 hours to beat Witcher 3, and that's without the side quests. That is a huge commitment. Yeah, so if I'm going to spend that time, it's going to be probably on some sci-fi spaceship game, because that's my thing. I like the sci-fi spaceship stuff more than I like the this kind of stuff. But still, you have to appreciate this. Okay, so this is running right now at 6 frames per second, but I have a feeling we have the settings turned up from when we were testing my gaming laptop earlier. So let me go hit the escape key here, and we're going to go over to options. And we'll go down to video. Yeah, it's like totally, it's like crying uncle here. All right, so video. There we go. And we're going to go to graphics. All right, so we're going to just set it to low. Whoa! See how like the mouse is like totally suffering here. There we go, low. Okay, so set that to low. But I do want to have the resolution. What's going on here? That's weird. It's like setting the resolution at 1024 by 768. We don't want to go down that low. But we'll put it up here to 1080p. And then let's scroll through and make sure everything is set to low. Low, 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 low. VSync is off. All right, so make sure we're still on low. Whoa, okay. Yeah, we're good. All right, so we're going to apply this. Yes. All right. Yeah, so we're not doing too good here. We're doing about 14 frames per second. And that's on low settings, but I'm going to go back in and double check that just to make sure that we're... See, I've been having Jake, who works for me on the channel, he's been doing most of this work, so I haven't like done a lot of this stuff lately. Let's go back into graphics one more time. Yeah, so we're at 1080p. So I think what I might do here, let's go down to 720p and see if that gives us a little bit better performance here. So let's go to 720. Yeah, so that's going to be the sweet spot here on this one. So now we're about 20 to 30 here, low settings. And it's lagging out a little bit, so I'm just going to record some footage here. So we're doing about low settings, 720p. We're doing about 25 to 30, which I'm pretty sure was what we saw on the other one, which was the Acer that we looked at a few months ago. Oops, I had the wrong. I don't even know how to play this game, to be honest with you. Jake knows how to play this game. Yeah, so we're in the 20 territory here, which is not great. But this game is pretty demanding. I found of all the ones that we test, this one tends to kind of really tax the hardware. Even the higher end stuff gets pretty well taxed by this. All right, so I think that's good enough for that. And we're good there. And that's the other thing. You know, you're able to get this stuff to run on a $500 or less laptop. Generally less than that, usually $300 or $400. But there's trade-offs versus something that has a dedicated GPU. And in many cases, you can buy one of these big, bulky laptops. Dell makes them. Everyone makes one of these things. They're not like the fancy gaming thing, but they've got a GPU. They can do a lot more. They're about $700. They're huge. They're heavy. The battery life is terrible. The screen is so-so. But you can get the GPU and the horsepower, and you can spend under $1,000. If you want to go under 500, I think the Ryzens are probably the best place to go with that. All right, let me just make a note for Witcher 3. Okay. All right, next up, let's do Doom. What's neat about Doom is that it's a really fast game. Even on lower end hardware, I found it runs really nicely. So let's see how it does here. And we'll let that kind of come together. So Monty is planning to get a $1,300 to $1,500 desktop to replace his current one. You can actually do pretty well on that. And you get, like I said, you can get gaming laptops for under $1,000, but it's a matter of what you want inside of it. And if you want something, so for example, I wanted something thin, light, and powerful that could do VR, and I spent about, after all the rebates and stuff, about $1,700 on this one, which we reviewed the other day, and it's got the 2080 Max Q. It's every bit as good as my big desktop upstairs, and for the channel it's great because I can fit it on the table here, and I can do all the VR stuff on it. So that was worth it. But I could, if I was just playing games on screen, I could probably do pretty well for $700 with a discrete GPU. You get like a 1060 or a 1665 or whatever. So there's options out there. But if you want thin and light and powerful, then you pay a higher price. Now these are budget priced and good enough for most things. So let's get that Doom thing going there. Yeah, the screen on this is okay. It's not, what I found with these IPS displays are getting really good at the low end, but the brightness isn't always there. But this one isn't bad. I mean, it's not as dim as some of the other lower cost displays that I've looked at, so that hasn't been a bad experience. Although even this opening logo here is doing like 15 or 30 frames per second, so we'll see how this one does in a minute. All right, let's go back and get this going real quick. This might be at higher settings from what we had on a different computer, because we just got through doing like 4K stuff on the laptop. Roman wants to know, does the laptop feel rugged? It doesn't really. It's plastic, so it's got that commodity kind of feel to it. So I wouldn't want to drop it. I mean, it's all plastic. And the hinge goes about this far on it, as you can see. All right, I'm just going to log my clip that I recorded before. And I'm going to want to switch this into Vulkan mode. You know, video editing is a good question. I'm going to start playing around a little bit with DaVinci Resolve. And I have a feeling that you could actually probably get some passable video editing on this thing. All right, so let's go and load up the arcade mode real quick. By the way, this is another game that I play like just for enough to test stuff with, but I really like it. It's all right. What am I doing here? What's all this stuff? I don't want to pre-order anything. I just want to play the game I purchased. So I have to go to campaign. Okay. And I think oh here, arcade mode. That's what I was looking for. All right, we'll do the UAC, and we'll do the settings here after the game loads. This Vivobook has a 256 gigabyte SSD, and I'm pretty sure you can upgrade that. So we'll pop it open in a little bit and see. And that's the other thing, you know, like you're getting these sub $500 laptops, some $300 with an NVMe SSD. Like the prices have just plummeted on this stuff, and you get really good performance out of it. My wife my wife's the treasurer of the PTO in town here, and they have a laptop that the treasurer uses, so they kind of hand it down from one treasurer to the next. And it was purchased just a year or two, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. You know, it's an i3 Acer. They probably spent, you know, a couple $100 at a local retailer for it. Maybe they got it on Amazon. And wow, it's really super slow. But it has this mechanical hard drive on it that is so slow. I mean, it takes it 5 minutes just to get to the desktop. So I ended up just, my wife has a MacBook, so I installed VMware on there, and we just have a, all right, we're going to go to Vulkan.
Sorry, I missed that.
Could
you say it again, please?
I did not talk to you, Siri. Thank you. I've been noticing a lot more false alarms with Siri lately, too. I don't know about you all. All right, so we're going to Vulkan, and we're going to go down to low. And that should give us a better outcome here. So we'll hit escape. Yes. We'll probably have to reload Doom here now to get that going. So Travis Rhodes tried to use GPU acceleration in DaVinci Resolve with a 560 Ti, and it said no. I gotta start playing with it and see what we can do with it. My problem is that my video editing workflow is so simple that I have no doubt that I could edit my YouTube channel on this thing without a problem, because most of what I do as far as compositing and multi-layer stuff is for the most part done on the TriCaster while I'm recording the video. So I just string clips together. I mean, I could edit on my phone if I wanted to. It would just be not such a great experience, but. And Charsep says that the NVMEs are so cheap right now, the SATA SSDs are less worth it at current prices. Yeah, I think the NVMEs may have less components on it or something, but it's intriguing how much these NVMEs have come down in price. It's crazy inexpensive now, and they're so fast. They have thermal problems, the NVMEs, but they're generally quick for bursty kind of stuff. All right, so we're going to come back to where we were before, 1080p again. And Roman is talking about how some of these laptops have a DVD that you can pull out. Yeah, actually, a friend of mine had one of those laptops with a DVD drive that he wasn't using, so we pulled it out and we kind of shoehorned in a SATA SSD on there, and that was a really good upgrade for him. All right, so we're doing at 1080p, low settings, pretty much an unplayable 17 to 20 here, so not ideal. But again, we're at 1080p, and this is Vulkan, the Vulkan graphics too. You know what's funny though is that these games must do something to smooth out the lower frame rate because again we're running at 18 or 19 here, but it's not jumpy. You know what I mean? It's got some smoothness to it, although it feels kind of slow. So let me jump back out to the graphics settings here, and we'll see if we have to turn this down. So we'll go to video, and we'll drop our resolutions. I think we were down at the low settings, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, everything's low here. Low, 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 low. Low, 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 low. All the stuff is off. Yeah, so let's go over to video settings, and we'll drop it to 1080p. And I think we should see a good little bump there. All right, so we'll back out of here. All right. Yeah, so now we're playable. This is about 35 frames per second or so. So that's much better. Doesn't look so great though. See, that's the other thing with these displays is that, you know, the display being a 1080p display, you know, is going to not look as clean. So the image quality is not so great. But I mean, this is pretty playable, right? 30 frames per second, 720p. It's kind of funny though that GTA 5 is running better than something like this, although, you know, it could just be what it demands. So I'm going to take a recording here, and we'll let this kind of run through. But not bad, you know, about 30, 40 frames per second, 720p, low settings. It's really hard to play with the trackpad. I should have hooked up my mouse first, and we just got eaten. Let's try this one more time just to get a little bit more footage. So I think for a lot of these games, 720p will be the sweet spot. If you have an external display that can run at a lower resolution that looks a little better, then it'd be good. Just, you know, this looks kind of cloudy because you're kind of, you know, the display is up converting to 1080p to fill the screen up. Yeah, pretty good. So yeah, not bad. All right, so I think we've got a good amount of footage here. You know, we're in the 30 to 40 frames per second territory. Just this mouse is just terrible for this game. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to capture that footage on my log here. And this is 2002 Doom. Okay. So we're good there. Got some comments on Amazon. Someone's wondering, what is this? Well, Amazon has live streaming if you're watching on Amazon. And yes, they own Twitch, but this is not Twitch. This is Amazon shopping. And if you look down below, if you're on the Amazon thing, I can actually select what I'm talking about and take you right to the products. So it's pretty convenient if you're looking for inexpensive Ryzen laptops. So we're going to quit Doom here. And let's see. Somebody was asking about what Siri was going off. It was actually Siri on my phone. So let's see here. Wally Lee wants to know if it has USB-C charging. It does not. HK said it looks solid. Chrome R4N said it should run better. Yeah, we'll do the temps on the full review because we usually do a temperature recording on the stress test that we run. All right. And the whole point here of these Ryzen machines is that, you know, for well under $500, you can get a machine that, you know, is not going to rival a gaming laptop. But if you're on a budget and you want the 1080p display and you want some of the things that like a backlit keyboard like this one has and the RAMs, this is 8 gigs of RAM. It's got, you know, it's decent transportation. You know, it's not going to be better than something with a discrete GPU in many cases, but it's, I think, attractive for a lot of people. And I've been noticing just from my own YouTube traffic that, and the Amazon traffic too, for that matter, I get a lot of views on these Ryzen machines because people are seeing them and they're wondering, well, what can you do with a $300 or $400 computer? Well, you can do a lot with it, and, you know, more than what you think. And I think it's intriguing to a lot of folks. And the other thing to keep an eye on is that there's apparently going to be some Chromebooks running with these Ryzen processors later this year. There was somebody from Google who was quoted in an article talking about that. And what that means is that you're going to be able to install Steam through Chrome OS on its Linux thing and be able to play some games on a Chromebook. So in fact, they're looking at making an official Steam client too. All right, I want to try a couple more things, and I know everyone wants me to put Linux on it, so we'll get to that. But I did want to test out Rocket League. Actually, you know what I'm going to do before I do that? I'm going to do Street Fighter V, because there are a few folks that have been asking about that. And so Street Fighter V has two modes. They have like a low-end mode and a regular mode. So the trick here is whether or not the regular mode can run the game at 60 frames per second. I don't know the Bluetooth version on it. I think it's the latest and greatest. I can look that up in a little bit. Yeah, and I've been, Charcept is talking about Rocket League being a realistic use case for these kind of machines. Yeah, Rocket League's a good game for these, because you can do better than your Switch perhaps in something portable like this, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna doubt we're gonna get this thing going to 60, but we'll see what we get out of this when it comes up. What I can't stand about this game though is like there's so much stuff to wade through just to play it, and then I bought this game, but then I'm constantly like badgered to buy more stuff. Like there's no the character. I don't know. I got to agree to the policies here. And this game I don't believe syncs between my machines either, so I'm always like having to reinvent the wheel every time I jump in. There's a title update. I don't know what that means. All right, so let's get into. I was going to download something real quick. The graphics though are pretty nice on this game. RY is asking about external GPUs. Not on this one. Yeah, you don't have the Thunderbolt 3 on it. What I'm curious to see, though, is now that we have the grand Thunderbolt USB integration, if we might see Thunderbolt making its way to other machines. Yeah, so we are at like 17. So that's not going to work here, is it? Let me get out of this. Let's see if I can get into the... See, that's the other thing. You have to go through this tutorial just to get to the settings screen. But I don't think we're going to... Confirm is saying, or Eric is asking if he upgrades the laptop from a dual core to a quad core, what improvement could you see based only on the CPU? Well, it depends on what you're doing. I think if you're doing, video editing or things that really hammer the CPU, and it also, I think the other factor here too is that it's a matter of whether or not the software you're running can support those multiple cores. If you have a really good multi-threaded application, like a video editing app, then you'll see some improvement, or you can have more running in the background. But it's going to vary based on what you're doing specifically. For games, it may not make as big of a deal if your graphics aren't great. So that's the kind of stuff to think about here. All right, how do we get to just like I want the screen to update stuff. And this is also why we don't often showcase this game, because there's so much time to go through all of this stuff to get to the settings screen. So Eric says he's a writer and a gamer. So, I think, for writing, certainly not. You won't see much of an improvement there. As noted, you might, if you have a lot of browser tabs open and a lot of stuff running in the background, you might do a little better. But it also varies based on what processor you have. Over the last, I've been doing these PC reviews for 5 or 6 years now, so I've seen the progression. And I gotta say, like, even a decent Intel computer, even from 5 years ago, is still very good for most of what you're going to want to do. In fact, we recently here on the channel upgraded my gaming PC upstairs. I needed a new motherboard because it did have some things that my older motherboard didn't have. But we kept the GPU, and we upgraded the CPU to this octa-core i9 Intel chip. I just bought the best Intel chip I could find. And I'll tell you what, if you're browsing the web on it, you're noticing no difference whatsoever. Even in the games, because I had the same 1080 GPU from the prior configuration to the current one, that CPU upgrade did not make a noticeable difference in gaming performance. So, what I usually say to people is that if you're satisfied with what you have, then I think you're okay. And honestly, I think what's driving performance, isn't this crazy? What's driving performance more than anything is the fact that the games are really demanding. And as you go to 4K with a higher end display or onto a TV that's 4K, that's where having the faster GPU makes a big difference. And VR is driving a lot of stuff too. And even the top end GPUs really can't get there, and remember, like these VR games for the PC VR headsets have to run at a minimum of 90 frames per second. And as the games get more advanced, it's reducing the performance that you can get to that 90. And Valve has their new headset. And can you believe how much stuff, by the way, I'm going through here? Valve has their new headset, and that one can go up to 144 frames per second. But I don't think there's any VR games that can really support that, even with like a 2080 Ti or something like that. So yeah, we're in a real, I think we've got a lot of room for GPU improvements. And I'm really interested to see, what we get on that, because, as now it's updating, I guess. Because I think that's going to be the big story rolling forward here. Yeah, I got to say, the screen doesn't look bad. It's not that dim. It's pretty sharp. It's IPS. It looks good. So Jotaku's talking about some other Ryzen. Yeah, there's a lot of these Ryzen 5s. I would venture to say that what's probably happening right now, because we're seeing so many of these things out there, I have a feeling that AMD probably had a lot of inventory, and they are just not dumping these on the market, but they're selling these chips to these computer manufacturers very inexpensively. Because overnight, we went from like just one of these laptops on Amazon to like a dozen of them. And go on there and look. They're all over the place, and they are great values, especially the ones you can get around $300. There's just some good deals out there. This one is a little more pricey, but the configuration is pretty good here. All right, I didn't want that. Let's go. I don't want to match make right now. How do I get out of here? Let's go to options. Oh boy, it's been a long week. All right, so we're going to go to graphics settings. So let's see if we can, there's an automatic setting. Oh, so this has like a resolution scaling option. So that would bring you down to, okay, that essentially would be 720p, I think, if we did that. So let's jump out of this. Okay, picture quality. Yeah, so and we'll go to automatic settings here. Okay. All right, so let's come back here and see if we can get any better performance now that we're on that lower setting. Oops, jeez. It's even hard to start a game on this thing too, isn't it? Start maybe? Apply settings. How do we start the game? I just want to play a game. All right. I've always played Chun-Li on Street Fighter 2, so let's see how we do now. So we have an Amazon customer who says, I like the gaming heart. I needed the new one because it had better stuff. That's always how it works. You need better stuff. All right, let's go skip this here. All right, so now we're looking at about 50, yeah, we're hitting 60 now. But it doesn't look that great. It looks pretty bad, actually. Let me record this real quick just to have the footage. I mean, you can play the game. It's just not going to be all that desirable. I kind of like this, though. It gives like the Chun-Li backstory. That's pretty cool. It looks like they have some destructible backgrounds here, too, so that's all pretty neat. It just doesn't look that great. I mean, you'll get a much better, much better image quality on a higher-end machine. But we're hitting 58, so we're just about 60 here. So that's what this game really needs to perform well. All right. We got just a couple more games, folks, and then we'll try the Linux stuff, and then we'll take it apart. All right. Good enough. So let me just mark that clip. And don't forget, tomorrow night we're going to be back at the same time with a Lenovo device. So this is Street Fighter 5. All right. And you'll see these clips in the review when we do it. How do I get out of here now? Skip battle, return to, go to main menu. Oops. The other problem I have is that I've been playing so much on my Switch, and on the Switch, the enter button is here, but on the PC, it's here. So I'm like hitting the wrong buttons constantly too, which doesn't help. All right, so we're gonna quit out of here. We'll do Rocket League, and then maybe we'll do some Linux. Now here's the thing with Linux, everybody. What I do, especially on these machines that are loaners, is I run the live boot. And we had a long discussion about this live boot thing because of the fact that some folks thought I should do a full install versus the live boot for performance reasons. And what we measure typically is that we want to see that the hardware is getting detected properly. And from a pretty lengthy discussion we had on my channel when I asked the question of the viewership, the consensus was that hardware detection should be about the same whether you live boot or do a fresh install. Now, I would grant you that there might be driver packages that you have to install to get something to work. I'll give you that. But for the most part, if it's able to detect everything on the live boot, usually that means you're going to have a very easy Linux experience with this. And the hard part is for Linux, and what I do is that people that are buying laptops to install Linux on them are a very small subset of the audience of who ends up watching these reviews. So, you know, we have found that, and I've done some experiments in the past of like doing a real dedicated Linux video on each of these machines. It's just from the standpoint of time investment versus return on viewership, it's not very high. So we don't do a lot of Linux, but we do enough to see what the hardware detection is, and that's been kind of the approach that we've taken. And it's a very tough audience to not. I don't want to say it's tough in the sense that I don't want to work with that audience. I don't mean that at all. It's just that the technical requests just are so time consuming that we can't make it work on this channel. But it's something I've been thinking about. As far, I'm going to go to performance here. It's something I've been thinking about from the standpoint of could we do have Jake kind of go into that Linux world a little bit more with some of these. That might be something we'll do. If I did do that, it would probably not be every computer we get in, but it would be the more popular ones that do really well. So we'll have to play around with that. So what I'm going to do first here is just kind of run everything on like high performance mode. So we've kind of turned down all the settings. And so Roman's one of my Linux guys. So like that, and that's why I'm glad to hear Roman say he likes the approach to Linux, because you know I'm trying to get the information out there to people that really want it, and in a way that balances the time investment. So, and I'm glad to hear that that's been working for him, because we're really trying to be helpful as best we can. All right, so I'm going to go play local. We're going to do an exhibition. There we go. WM says he's been surprised by how well live booting works lately, so that's good to hear. Yeah, I think they've made some really big improvements there. All right, so we're doing about 80 frames per second here on the low settings. What I want to do though is I started the wrong thing. I just want to go and Like I said, I've been playing so much Switch lately. And the worst part is I've been using this controller on the Switch, so my muscle memory, because I'm holding this controller, is to hit the wrong buttons on the PC side. I'm getting old, everybody. So I'm just hitting the wrong buttons all the time. So let me go play local. We're going to go... am I hitting the wrong thing again here? Let's see. So play local, exhibition, there we go. Part of the problem too is the buttons on this controller are not labeled properly either. So, all right, so we're gonna create a quick match. All right, so next up after this is Linux. And then we're going to, jump into some other stuff. John Moshi wants to know if I'm going to do a review of the Samsung Chrome OS Linux new laptop. Yeah, I'd hope to get one of those in. I got to get in touch with their PR people, see if we can get that in. So I really like reviewing Chromebooks. Those do well on my channel because not a lot of tech channels do Chromebooks. And it's a growing market. Yeah, so we are at, I'm going to do the recording here for the low quality. So we're at about 80... It's kind of all over the place. So, and this is where you can see the CPU really coming into play. So when you get closer to the cars, we're in the high 60s, low 70s. And when you're further away, you can see higher frame rates. So if I'm so we'll let the cars kind of do their thing over there. And if I go this way, I'm in like 70, 80, 90 frames per second. So it's when you get closer to the other cars, it drops pretty dramatically here. So I would say, you can expect in a match, low settings, you can hit 60 to 70 on this mode here. So let's just record that real quick. I'm just going to set everything on high settings just to get it. Travis Rose says, "What's my 3 versus 3 rank?" It's abysmal because I quit the game. I don't quit the network games, but I am really bad at. Actually, I like Rocket League a lot. All right, so let's turn up the options, video, and we're going to go now. We'll just go to high quality, and we're just going to turn everything on. This will kill it. I'm just curious to see how it does. Depth of field, bloom, light shafts, lens flares. It's funny though how some of these things don't, like on some other computers I've tested, they don't always impact performance as much as you think it might. Okay, there we go. All right. And yeah, so high performance, we're down in the 20s. High quality. So it's, but again, this game too kind of adjusts for that. So you get some motion blur that kind of blends the frames together. So it's, it looks okay, but it's not obviously as good as my fancy schmancy gaming laptop down there. So yeah. All right. Well, we've got most of the game footage recorded. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try the Linux thing real quick. And then I'm going to take it apart. And then we're going to call it a night. How's that sound, everybody? Because, as usual, these streams go like, I've been going now for almost an hour, for 90 minutes. I said, we're going to do 90 minutes. And it's 90 minutes, and we're still going here. So, which is fine. It's Friday night. Nothing's really going on. I may actually go and watch Picard again tonight. So, like I said, I want my wife to watch it, because I'm trying to. So, it's funny, my wife has never liked science fiction stuff. But I rented, years ago, actually, I take that back. Years ago, back before Netflix and everything, there happened to be a rerun of the Borg episode with Picard and the cliffhanger, and they ran them back to back. And so I think whatever it was, I had both the parts of it. And it's probably one of the best cliffhangers in TV history. Nobody'd ever done that before, right? Made you wait the whole season to figure out what happened to him. And she was like enjoying it. I was like, oh my gosh, my wife actually likes something with Star Trek. So then I said, well, you have to watch the First Contact movie. So I went out and rented that, and she liked that one too. And his character is great. I mean, he's just, wow, this thing boots up fast. I tried to jump into the BIOS, and it was like booted before I even had a chance to hit any of the keys. And the other thing with these things is every manufacturer has a different BIOS command, so you've got to like run through these a couple of times. But First Contact was a great movie. And I'll tell you what I like about Picard is that it's a continuation of the series. And they're taking elements out of some of the, like this story is being built from some of the best episodes that they had on the Next Generation. And I think that, I mean, they were just so tasteful in how they put this whole thing together. Eric wants to know my experiences with DeX. I have not done much with DeX because I don't have a Samsung phone. Jake has one. And he likes DeX a lot. He actually uses it quite a bit. I think you're going to see Google integrate their own version of DeX shortly. So I think we're going to see that on a lot of phones, and the Pixel phones in particular, which I have a couple Pixel phones. So I'm looking forward to them playing around with that. All right, let's see if we can get this thing. Yeah, it's not F2. Maybe it's F10. The one I haven't tried yet is the one that it'll be. The one thing that frustrates me about CBS All Access is that they don't release the whole thing at once. So it's 4 episodes a month over 2.5 months. So they get $20-$30 out of you. I just would like to just buy the series so I'd have it to watch whenever I wanted to. That's my only gripe with it. It's not F10 either. All right, I got to look up Asus Vivobook BIOS. Let's see here. What's the key? As soon as you hold on the F2, okay. So this is F2. We're going to shut this thing down completely and start it from scratch here and see if that gets us going. So what you have to do on the BIOS, of course, is, all right, so we're going to hold down F2 and start it up. And the question is whether or not you have to hit the function key first with it. Oh, there we go. We got it. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to my stock plop here. We're going to try Ubuntu without installing and see how we do. I'll tell you what, we're in a great time when you can buy something so useful for so little money. It's really remarkable. Okay, so we're up. So what I like to test on Linux is make sure we have sound. We haven't really looked at the speakers on this either, so let's turn the sound on. Sound works. And we'll go to my YouTube channel. Oh, we have to connect to the Wi-Fi, so let me go connect it up with Wi-Fi real quick. Select network. Yeah, so the Wi-Fi is working. So that's encouraging. Just got to type my password in here real quick. And by the way, we're going to do something on my local network soon on a stream because I have, I'm really looking to get a VLAN set up because I've got all these IoT devices now. I want to get them off my network. So we're going to put them on a VLAN and do that. Okay, so we are running. Hey, look, we can like, oh, this would be kind of weird, right? We could do a meta thing. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that happen before. All right, so. All right, there we go.
Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today
Pretty
at
loud
the
speakers.
A Fusion wired fight pad. This, they say, is a Sega Saturn-inspired gamepad that is designed for fighting games. It hooks up to the Xbox One or the PC via its included USB cable, and it's got a couple of other interesting little features to it that we're going to explore in this review, including one of these floating.
So no problem here, folks. We got Wi-Fi, we got sound. Let me check and see if the Bluetooth is in this thing. Sometimes the Bluetooth doesn't work, but let's take a look and see if Bluetooth is working. Yep, Bluetooth is working. It's finding all this stuff in my house here. So, yeah, I think Linux could be a good a good deal on this. Yeah, speakers are pretty loud on it too. Yeah, there's not a good range of sound to it, but it's decent. Let me, 1 second here. I just got to make a couple more notes on a few of these games here. Rocket League. We got. All right. I think we got everything there. Linux is A-okay. All right, so last thing we got to do, folks. This is the treacherous moment of the evening, because I'm sure you all want to know what's inside of this thing. So we're going to take this thing apart. All right. So yeah, we got it all. It's all there. So Linux is a go. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it off. And this is the moment where I risk public embarrassment, because we're going to take it apart. And hopefully I don't break it while we do that. And what's nice, too, about these lower cost devices is that I got to be really careful tonight, too, because the static electricity down here is just terrible. So I got to find my static charge bracelet thing here. And we're going to get my overhead view going, too, so you can see that. And I'm going to ground myself, because I am like, every time I get up, I'm shocking something, and you do not want to be taking apart computers when you're statically charged. So one of these little things is good for ensuring that you don't zap yourself or your computer. And I just got to find something to ground myself to here real quick. All right, here it is. So let's click attach to this thing. All right, so let me zoom out my camera up here. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So we got our overhead view. And you know what else I'm going to do, folks, is I am going to get my magnetic mat that I got recently, because, as you all know, if you drop a screw on the carpet, you can never find it again. So I got this magnetic mat that I keep in this drawer over here. And the magnet mat keeps the screws from falling away. And the other cool thing about the magnet mat is that, here, I'll show you what it looks like, is that it's got a little grid on it so you can keep the screws in the right position, because I have found over time that sometimes these laptops have different screws based on the position of the thing there. So yeah. All right. So first thing we're going to do is figure out what size screw bit to use here. And I got one of these. This is an Oriya that I got from an Amazon Prime Day sale a while back. These are like $15 right here on Amazon. I should have added it to the product thing. And it's been a great tool set. It's not the best tool set you can buy, but it's good enough for what I need it for. So there you go. So we're going to put these screws. These screws come out super easy. I'm surprised they're not even that tight. All right. And again, I am on my thing here. So yeah, downward firing speakers on this. So I am not a big fan of downward firing speakers, because they sound different depending on what you are downward firing onto. I will say, if you like to take apart computers, I think you might like this one, because these screws come out super easy on this. So Chris Ainsley said the 6502 processor, which was in most of our devices from the 80s, had just over 4,000 transistors. How many transistors in this APU? I have no idea, but I am sure one of you has an idea, because I would love to know that as well. And it's amazing, as the processes continue to shrink for these chip manufacturers, what we are able to do. It's just remarkable. Even the mobile chips, I mean, it's just crazy. So here, by the way, folks, this is why I use this grid mat, and I'll show you here in a second, because these screws I'm taking out now at the bottom are smaller than the screws at the top. And it's very easy to get mixed up. So what's nice about this mat is that they're not going anywhere because it's a magnetic mat, and I've got all the screws in the right grid position. So I can find a way to get them back together again. Now, the other thing I need to find, which is not here at the moment, it's probably in my toolbox. I need to get my little plastic spudger thing that goes into the seam so I can pop that lid off. So let me go find that real quick. I need to buy some more of those things. I've kind of worn some of my plastic spudgers out. But the big problem here is that I'm very bad at putting things back in my toolbox, and I need to get better at that. So, and this kit, by the way, came with all of the stuff that I need to crack these laptops open. So this is a little spudger thing. It looks like a guitar pick, and you just kind of wedge it in there to pop it in there. So Chez says that there are 4.9 billion transistors. That's crazy. I don't even know how they design. I think they use, like, these chips now are designing themselves. So that's probably part of how they do it. And here's the other thing. You just got to get the right spot to start cracking the case open. And like I said, this one's starting to wear out a bit, so it's hard to get in there and get a good grip on the case. And sometimes you can get in under these ports. And other times what happens is that you have another screw somewhere that's under a sticker or something like that, so you got to be really careful not to force things to, there we go. There we go. So once you get it going, you can start going to town on it. You just have to get into one spot and then you can really get in there. So let's try it from this angle here. So we've got, oops, there we go. And you can tell which manufacturers don't mind you going into their computers based on how easy they come apart. The Lenovo's, they really don't like you going into their computers. Apple, Apple, of course, doesn't like you going into their computers either. But some of these other manufacturers are a little easier with it. And actually, the Acer that we looked at a few weeks ago, they even had like an extra spot for an additional hard drive, and they gave you the cable in the box for getting that hard drive attached. So they were much more open to you opening their hardware. Whoa. All right, let's see if we can get in here. Looks like there's some, trying to figure out exactly how this case detaches. There we go. All right, we're getting there. It really takes a while. Like, you know, it's almost like they don't need screws at all because they are so well attached. And you just have to kind of very gently separate everything. You don't want to go too crazy and like break something, so you want to be really careful about it. Okay, there we go. All right, I think we're in, everybody. One more little there. Ooh, look at that. Okay, we are in. Oh, so this is interesting. So let me make sure I record this so we don't forget. So what do we got in here, everybody? Well, we have what looks to be a spot that you could put a SATA SSD in, but I don't see, I see a cable here. So I'm going to have to check the box and see if it comes with a, I want to see if it comes with a cable to adapt to that spot. Because you could easily put a SATA hard drive in there, no problem. So we got a Kingston NVMe drive here. I think that's NVMe. I'm pretty sure it is. So that is there. And then we've got our fan and heatsink combination. And it's interesting, it's actually a two-parter because it looks like it's using the casing here to get the airflow going. So it's like sucking air in and then pushing it out through that vent there. So that's an interesting design. Now, the RAM is what's interesting to me because there is one slot here. So it looks like 4 gigs is on the board, and then there's another 4 gigs that they put into this slot, because there's only one chip here. But they did say in the specs that it was 4x4. But let's take this little sticker back here and just see. Let me get myself established so we don't shock anything. Let's see if we can peel the sticker away and make sure that it's really 4 gigs. Yeah, so this is 4 gigs, and this computer has 8. So 4 is on the motherboard, and the other 4 is added here. But it's good that they're selling this with it like that. And then here's your wireless card. Interesting. Okay. Well, folks, there you go. So we just got to see now if there's a cable in the case, because I'm guessing that this connector here is where you attach the cable to get that SATA drive in there, because there is no other spot that you would have that going. Now, the Acer included that in the box. I'm going to check in the box in a minute, but I didn't see it because I did the unboxing a little bit earlier, and I did not see it there. I may shoot this tomorrow. I have enough, I think, to go on. Just the battery life is the only thing I got to really evaluate on there. All right. So Mr. Fugmoon says, so you can increase gaming performance by adding another stick of RAM. Yeah, so if you bought one of these without that stick of RAM, adding it will definitely increase the performance. But just getting more memory would certainly give you more memory, but it may not. It would not on its own increase the graphics performance. It's really getting into that dual channel mode is really critical on these. And like I said, this one's got 4 gigs on the main board somewhere. I'm guessing this is probably the processor, and I'm guessing the soldered RAM is over here. I'm guessing. It is shielded. So that's probably how they configured it. And I got to say, you know, like the cooling, I'm not totally crazy about the cooling here. So we'll see how it does on the stress test. Jake ran it earlier, so I just have to get him to share the document with me. All right, so let's put this thing back together. And you got to snap it all back in. And it snaps in a lot of different places. So you got to get it all back. And you saw like how important this back panel was for cooling. So you need to make sure it's all safe and secure there. All right. And now we're going to screw everything back in again. And there you go. Chris Ainsley wants to know how much is this one again. So this one looks like, as configured, $479. But here's the thing with these. If you go on to Amazon through my link there, you can find it. These are often sold by different parties, so the pricing is kind of all over the place. So I would keep an eye on it and then hunt around. So I saw like a few that had 4 gigs of RAM, and I can't remember which brands were which with that, but the pricing on these will all, like, you really just got to keep an eye on it, because you will see a lot of variation in pricing. These are kind of the ones that get out into the channel, and there's a lot of competition on price on these. And this one is the most expensive, I think, of the Ryzen machines we've looked at recently. So the next one we're going to be playing with tomorrow night is about $315, but not as powerful. All right, so that screw is not going to go in. There it goes. There it goes. Okay. I will say having this magnetic mat is very helpful. One, because the screws don't disappear, but also because you've got a nice grid pattern so you can put the screws back where they belong. And I found even some laptops, like the one in position 1 is of one length and position 2 is another, so having the grid here really helps get all that back into place there. So Kimmy Guy says, can you take off the 4 gig of RAM and add more, or 8? I think it can support more, but I don't know if you get an advantage. I'm not sure how the dual channel works when you've got two different size modules. Maybe somebody can comment on that. I'm pretty sure you don't get the performance gain by doing that. Yeah, so Chris Ainsley said if you added 16 or 8, the GPU would underperform. So what you want to look for, if you really want to go beyond the 8, if you wanted to do 16, I'm pretty sure this chipset supports 16. You'd probably want to look for one that has 2 RAM slots in it so that you could make that change, because this one will not give you a lot of flexibility there. John Moshi wants to know about the Amazon buying program. I'm not sure what you're maybe talking about the Amazon buying program. Is that what you're asking about? What we're doing on Amazon right now is we're part of their live stream thing that they're doing. So, okay. I'm just going to put this in here so it doesn't get lost. All right, so it is back together, and this one, I just have to do some work on the battery life tomorrow, which won't take me too long. Yeah, I think this one's going to be pretty good. So Jotaku has got some good suggestions on factors for performance. So high frequency RAM is important, he says. Flocum wants to do Amazon store. So if you go to my link in the description, you can go over to this live stream right now. And then we also have my Amazon page, which is Lon.TV/Amazon shop. And that's got I do a lot of reviews too on Amazon. So you'll see some of the reviews that I've done there too. So all sorts of good stuff. So let's power this back on and make sure it doesn't let any smoke out. We never liked the magic smoke coming out on the channel. We had that happen once with my old Apple II. And Jotaku says also, dual channel is so critical. Even on the Intel machines for graphics performance, dual channel is really critical. So, all right, looks like it all came back together, everybody. So that's good. Right now it's on battery, and I will kind of run down the battery tonight and tomorrow and see how we do. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent performing computer. About what I expected, from the AMD chipset. So that's good. And yeah, it's good stuff. All right, so here's the plan. Tomorrow night, we're going to be back at the same time. We'll start really digging in around 8, but I'll probably start around 7:45 or so just to get the stream up and running. And we'll do the Lenovo, which is similar to this one, but less expensive because it has the lower end processor, and I think it has a smaller SSD. But we'll do exactly what we did tonight. We'll load up a few games on it. We'll test those out. We'll take it apart. We'll put Linux on it. Kind of just run through the things that we tend to look for when we're reviewing computers and stuff. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not again, the build quality is not going to blow you away, but here's the one thing that drives me crazy about these Asus laptops. They've done this for a long time. They have these little feet on the back, and if you've got a cheap IKEA desk like I do, these things will scratch up your desk. And they're not even metal, they're plastic, but if you've got like a very soft wood that you're putting them on, they tend to dig in a little bit. And they've been putting these things on their laptops as long as I've been reviewing them. So that's my only word of caution is on the Asus is that. But you know what though, it's got a good amount of stuff here. You've got the backlit keyboard. The APU is pretty, again, for graphics is pretty good on it. So yeah, I'm not displeased with it. I think it's a good value. So that is it. All right. Well, David Parker has read my mind because it is time to call it a night. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. I got some thank yous also. Bernardo Anderson, who became a member tonight, and for David Yablonsky for a super chat. Thank you very much for that. Thank everyone for tuning in on Amazon as well. And we're going to be back again tomorrow night, same time, with a different laptop. Actually, I will show you what it looks like if you want to see it. And then, we'll do exactly what we did tomorrow night with the other one. Let me go walk over and get it real quick. And I've got a hard drive and some other stuff connected to it, but hang on. And this is the Lenovo. So it's a little heavier. I got to get all the weight and everything down on the other one too. And Lenovo's, you know, what I like about Lenovo stuff is the keyboards, because the keyboard's a little nicer on this one. So here, I'll give you my overhead view here. So that's the keyboard on it. So it's got bigger keys, but this one I don't believe has backlit keys. So there's always that trade-off between that. But and this one almost feels, I don't think it's metal. Actually, this part's metal. So it's got a little metal on it. And I'm amazed by how many different computers that all of these companies pump out. Like Lenovo, HP, Dell, Asus, they crank out so many of these laptops. So this is the one we're going to look at tomorrow. Pretty much the same guts, I think. This one I think has the 2500 processor. So this one will be a little bit less powerful, but it also costs less. So I think you can get this one for like $375, so about $100 less. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, 1080p, 15-inch number pad. I like the keyboard a little better. Yeah. So we will we'll see how it goes. So that's tomorrow night. See, if you get me going here, I'm going to start playing with it now, and I'm not going to do that because I got to go to bed. So that is that. Okay, so hopefully this was an informative little live stream for you. Well, you know, when we do the review, that'll obviously have, you know, more of a, it'll make more sense because it'll be that feels nice. It's like this nice metal lid. That's kind of a classy thing to put on a cheap laptop. It's nice and metal. So we will, like I said, we'll look at this, the Lenovo tomorrow night. And then I haven't got the HP one in yet, but I will be. So when we get that one in, we'll play around with that one too. And I got to think about video editing because I know that's a topic that people are going to want to talk about. So maybe Sunday night we'll do DaVinci Resolve on one of these things and see how it can do the video editing. That might be kind of a fun little project. So, all right. So stay tuned. Same Lon time. Same Lon.TV channel tomorrow, 8 p.m. for the Lenovo, and then we'll do some more stuff with it. Okay, I'm going to bed. I'm really going to do it now. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it, and definitely, I really appreciate everybody just participating. So it's great to have you all here, and I really thank you all for joining me as I did a little work tonight. So cool. All right, everybody, we will be back again shortly. Thank you very much. And until next time, it's me, and you can find me here 8 o'clock tomorrow night with the Lenovo. Bye-bye.